This is the breakdown of my Unreal Engine 5 game, Judgement. Inspiration for the visuals of the game comes from Pinterest. I explored certain topics such as fantasy landscapes and fantasy landmarks. These inspired me to create such areas and objects as shown, which will help give the feel of fantasy and a heavenly look. The narrative of the game follows a soul who has just entered the afterlife and is about to be judged on their human life's actions. They will be judged by going through each of the 7 deadly sins. The main mechanic of the game is called a reeling grappling hook. When used, it fires out a raycast. When the raycast hits an object, it will set the position of the cable and the grapple point to the location hit. It will also set the ball is grappling to true and set the player's movement to falling. These balls check whether the player is allowed to shoot this raycast. When the raycast has hit an object and the player is still holding down right click, this will keep the grapple attached to the wall or object hit. The player then can hold left click to apply force to themselves, dragging them towards the attachment point. This part of the script checks whether the player has left the trigger box, which is attached to the grapple point. This is to prevent people from stretching the grapple to insane lengths and keep it controlled. When out of this trigger box, it stops the ability to reel and attach the grapple. The basis of the grapple code was created with this video. At the start of the development, the grapple force applied was double the amount it is now, and it applied the force automatically. I later changed this half the amount of the pull force and letting the player control when they want to be pulled towards the attachment point. I did this as from feedback and personal testing, it felt the player had no control on where they could move and it felt very restricting using this type of grapple. However, lowering the pull force gives the player more chance to move around while grappling. Also letting them apply the force whenever they see fit lets the player swing with more efficiency, and choose where to land was made easier. Another aspect of the game is the puzzle and obstacle solving. One of the main puzzles used throughout the game is the symbol puzzle. This puzzle involves the player inputting the correct code of symbol in order to solve. This is done by interacting with symbol totems. Each totem has its own respective colour. When interacted with, the symbol above the totem will cycle between 4 symbols as shown. Each time the symbol is changed, it adds 1 to an integer. When the integer number reaches 5, it will reset back to 0 to tell what symbols are needed to solve the puzzle. Around the area there will be symbol totems. These statues have a symbol above them, and have their own colour which matches with the one on the symbol totems. The player needs to match the symbol shown on the totem with the one on the statue. When the player thinks they have the correct code, they will need to interact with the obelisk which is right next to the totems. If they have got their code correct, the puzzle will be complete. Some other mechanics that were included in the level are based in the second world Wrath. There are moving platforms within the level which help provide a sense of unease and difficulty as the soul in the story is experiencing the wrath of nature. In another section of this world I created blocks that I destroyed after a certain amount of time. This not only provides a challenge for the player to overcome and learn about, but it provides a nice switch up from the main symbol puzzle and lets the player experience new things to not get repetitive. Now that some main features and mechanics have been explained, I will go through the process of creating my levels and the level design theory put into them. Before creating my level, I would first go on to Pinterest and look at the environment and landscape to get a good idea of what I want to aim for. When this was done, I would then draw out a map plan for a section. I would then go into Unreal and create a map layout. However, often I would go back and redesign the map after seeing it built in 3D, if I was unhappy with the layout and what I wanted to achieve with the section. For example, this was the original plan for one of the area of the first level. I built a basic version of this and found that it was too open and didn't feel alive at all. I then went back and revised the area, making it seem more unique and stick out more and easier to navigate, and make the world feel more alive and full. I did this type of planning for several parts of my level and went back to change them once I got feedback. Another example of a big change to an area is the lake part of the first world. The first design was islands that would float, and then upon completing the puzzle they'd be cracked and split in the next world. However, while trying to create the floating islands, it felt too empty, and the world had lost its connectivity from other sections. It also made the world feel empty and unalive. However, I changed this to an open lake, as a big part of the game is the organism and a live world that connects everything together. However, this area wasn't perfect. It was too small and had lots of jumps, and one major issue was you could see all the simple statues needed to complete the puzzle from one location, making it really easy and removing a part of the core loop, which was exploration. So I extended the length and bended the mountains so you can't see the major landmarks straight away. This had two effects. Let the area be larger and more explorable, and it allowed the Judgement statue, which is the major centre point, had more viewing and being dead centre of everything. I also noticed there was a large section not being used, and this area was right next to a water pot I created earlier on. So to make the world feel more connected and cohesive, I created a small cave here where the player can travel through a pipe to look at the places they once were. When it comes to the core level design theory, I create this big green vine in which creates a leading line to where the player will be travelling next. I also created these red flowers which appear to be breathing and shoot out spores of noise. These are the only flowers that move in the level. These appear everywhere the player needs to be and near everything important. These were created to help guide the player where they need to go. Another way I helped the player traverse the world with ease was particles. This ambience particle is near every obelisk and interactable object the player needs to be. Another way I helped the player traverse the world with ease, using design theory, is landmarks. I created the following landmarks, the most common one being an obelisk. They all contain a yellow light gem which glows. This gem is turned into a purple in the second world. However, I did get feedback on these landmarks stating they weren't obvious enough, so I iterated them to be more grand and larger. For example, when the player loads into the first world, they will walk out of a closeted cave and then open into a large world, which gives them the feeling that the world is larger and more grand. And straight ahead of them is a hole within the wall showing the first direct landmark.
We wish you luck in proving yourself worthy.
When it comes to the obelisk landmarks, they will provide good affordance as the player will be required to interact with them several times, and will therefore associate these landmarks with interaction. He also created vines across the level which link up to the main large vine, which stretches across the whole level. These create affordance for the player, as every vine of this size they know they can now swing off it and interact with it with the grappling hook. I also created underground sections called caves within some areas. In these areas the player can no longer use their grapple, using this script which stops the grapple being able to fire and attach when the player is in the trigger. I want to stop the grapple in some locations such as these caves, as the player would grapple past these environment areas, not taking the time to look around. This in turn makes it so the player is less immersed in the world and doesn't feel connected to it. However, it provides a nice break from having to grapple everywhere. However, with these caves I want to drive home the theme of the world feeling connected and cohesive, and in this cave, the water from above pours in to help this feeling. Since it's a damp dark cave, mushrooms will grow within the area, making the world feel real but fantasy at the same time. From the feedback I received, I was told that the level had too much grappling within it as mentioned before. So acting on this feedback, I changed some areas to require less grapples. This in turn lowers the difficulty as they only have to complete a few swings in a row, not 5+, and it also provides a nice break for the player to take in the world around them. I will now show some general gameplay to help summarise information.